CJ Fly back with another YouTube video. In the Mavs versus Suns game last night in Phoenix, there was a fight that broke out that resulted in 3 ejections. Those ejections being none other than Jusuf Nurkic of the Phoenix Suns and Naji Marshall and PJ Washington of the Dallas Mavericks. Now, if you haven't seen the fight already, I'll go ahead and provide a link in the description for you to check it out. But basically what happened from my perspective as a Dallas Mavericks fan watching it on the TV broadcast of Mavs TV was that Jusuf Nurkic gave a bit of an elbow to Daniel Gafford, posting him up, trying to back him down. The play stopped. The refs blew it dead. And Jusuf Nurkic, I guess, had some words for Naji Marshall. Naji Marshall ran up to Nurkic and had some words right back. Kind of put his hands on his chest, but didn't really initiate any kind of violent maneuver, if you will. Just kind of, Naji Marshall kind of just put hands on the chest. And then Nurkic, I guess, didn't like that because then he took a big old slap at Naji Marshall's face. And then Marshall threw a punch at Nurkic's face, and that's when, as you can see in the image on the screen right now, the refs are running in, trying to break things up, and PJ Washington then came running in as words were being said back and forth and shoved Nurkic to the ground, and then all 3 players ended up getting suspended. The Suns ended up losing the game. I was kind of expecting the Suns to win the game, especially after Marshall and PJ were ejected, because honestly, Nurkic was almost a net negative for the Suns out there, and the Mavs really utilized Naji Marshall and PJ's Washington's defense and need it heavily, especially, already losing Luka on the offensive end, and PJ's kind of that defensive anchor for the Mavs. So I kind of expected the Mavs to lose, but then Maxi Kleber, legacy game for him, ended up getting double digits in scoring and was a key part to the team's success last night in getting the victory. So back to the ejections here and then the resulting suspensions, which were announced less than an hour ago from the time I'm recording this on December 28th. But basically, Naji Marshall gets suspended for the most games, 4-game suspension. Nurkic, who again I believe started the incident, is only suspended for 3 games. And then PJ gets suspended for 1 game. So I guess there's a couple things that come to my mind when I see the resulting suspensions. One, why in the world does Nurkic not get either the same amount of games or more games suspended than Naji Marshall, since he was the one that started this incident? Again, that's from my perspective, but I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Watch the fight again. I just don't see it. I just don't. And again, it feels like there's no set criteria or guidelines that the league has as far as determining the number of games for a suspension for a given action, whether that be a punch is thrown, a slap is had, a word is said. It just seems very subjective every single time, and I get that new methods of enacting violence are come up with innovative ways of fighting are invented every day, I guess. But it just doesn't feel like there's much criteria here. Shams did follow up saying that the league stated that following the on-court incident, Naji Marshall attempted to further engage Nurkic in a hostile manner in the corridor outside the locker rooms. What does that even mean? A hostile manner? Did he yell at him? Say, hey, F you, man? What does hostile manner mean? Can we get some more clarification on what happened? Was it a physical, did he try to charge at him? Did he just yell at him? I mean, come on. I don't know. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. Until we get more context on that, I just don't see why they aren't both getting suspended for the same amount of games. And to be honest, I don't feel like this incident really warrants getting suspended for more than 1 or 2 games. And if you're going to suspend both players for 3 to 4 games regarding this incident, why does the Draymond Green incident from a couple days ago, where he locked arms with both Lakers players on either side of him, I'll link this one in the description too, pulled out the WWE moves and just took down both players at the free throw line. How is that not like a 1-game suspension? I know what y'all are going to say. Well, it's Draymond Green. He gets away with everything. The refs just don't care, blah, blah, blah. It's clear that the league does not, they just allow it to happen. I mean, and that's honestly partly the truth. Like, oh, it's just Draymond Green. It's what he does. But, like, I don't know. If you're really going to be serious about this and saying that, he got engaged in a hostile manner, so we got to add another game to the, number of suspended games. I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel like there's any set criteria that the league has for this. They kind of just pick and choose however they feel. And I don't know who wins out of all of this. Like, who does this favor? Who comes out on top from all of this? Because clearly Draymond did not learn from his suspension that he had, his indefinite suspension last year. I don't know what suspensions do other than reduce the amount of pay that the players get. I guess that's the penalty. But do they really learn from these incidents when you suspend them like this? Does anyone, do the fans get any kind of benefit to it? I mean, I guess the fans of the other teams. I'm not saying there shouldn't be any penalty for this kind of thing, but sometimes it just feels like a joke as far as determining the number of games that a player should be suspended. There should be a set criteria known to the fans, known to the general public, that should be clearly stated. If such and such act happens, this is the approximate number of games of suspension. Like, I just don't get why there isn't that kind of a criteria set up at this point. Like, it doesn't even have to be a specific number. It could just be a range. Like, throwing multiple punches results in 10 to 15 games of suspension or something like that. Or off-the-court shenanigans involving domestic assault resulting in at least 20-game suspension. Like, why can't we just have some criteria set like that? And, I don't know. There's just no rhyme or reason for all of this. Some players get away with it, some players don't. PJ Washington's suspension, by the way, the 1 game, I don't mind it. I feel that's pretty valid, especially when you look at it relative to the number of suspended games for Nurkic and Naji. PJ came in kind of late, and, in a way, I would almost argue, some people might argue he was like escalating the situation, shoving Nurkic to the ground. I almost feel like PJ shoving Nurkic as far as he did kind of de-escalated things, kind of, further physical separation of Naji Marshall and Nurkic. But that might be a very biased take on my end. Anywho, just looking at both these teams, the Mavs and the Suns, following these suspensions, as I just said, it felt like during that Mavs versus Suns game, Nurkic was not doing the Suns any favors. That being said, the Suns don't really have any bigs outside of Plumlee. So, I feel like that still hurts them not having Nurkic available in the sense of rebounding. But Suns fans, go ahead and sound off if I'm just yapping here and not without any real knowledge on the situation of the roster. But the Suns have not been doing so hot recently. They were in the top 6 for a little while to start the season. In fact, I think they were top 2 in the West. They've fallen now to 10th, 3 wins, 7 losses in the last 10 games. They're going to face the Warriors tonight, who are also 3 wins and 7 losses in the last 10 games and have also been falling off a bit. That, of course, due to some injuries and what have you. The Suns, of course, no Devin Booker last night and no Grayson Allen last night. No Devin Booker tonight either. And I would assume Grayson Allen's still out. He was on concussion protocol. But that is yet to be determined. He is still listed as questionable at the time that I am recording this video. So, looking at the Mavericks, of course, we talked about them in a video I uploaded yesterday with Luka being injured and out for at least a month, probably out through the All-Star break. They're 7 wins and 3 losses in the last 10. And also, despite Luka being out, for the games that Luka has been out so far this season, the Mavs are 6 wins, well, now 7 wins, and 2 losses. And one of those 2 losses, Kyrie Irving was also out. So you look at it that way, and the Mavs can still hold their own without Luka. I already said I'm not too worried for the Mavs making the playoffs and getting a decent seed and all of that, but I'm still concerned about Luka's health long term, as I have been throughout the season so far. So looking at upcoming games for the Suns, again without Nurkic, it'll sting in the short term. They got play Golden State tonight. They play Memphis in a few days. Of course, you got some great bigs playing for Memphis. My favorite rookie in Zach Edey. You got Jaren Jackson Jr. on that team. So Memphis will be a tough battle. After that, the Suns have a really easy schedule. Granted, some of these teams or some of these games are on the road, but you got at Indiana, at Philly. That's probably the toughest one in this entire stretch. You play Charlotte twice, play Utah, you play Atlanta twice, you play Washington twice, you play Detroit, and then the toughest one, of course, is in late January against Cleveland. But my goodness, I mean, the next month is looking so easy for the Phoenix Suns. I would not be surprised, even with their injuries, if they start sliding up the standings a little bit, a couple positions here, and send the Spurs back down out of the play-in contention. But that will be yet to be determined. That's what I feel. I feel the Suns will probably slide up to 8th or 7th here in the West in the upcoming month. And then, of course, looking at the Dallas Mavericks schedule here, I already talked about this yesterday, but looking at it as far as the suspensions, so Naji Marshall will be out at Portland, at Sacramento, at Houston, and versus Cleveland at home with the 4 games. And then PJ out for the game tonight against Portland. Honestly, probably the best game that he could have missed. If he had to have missed any of the next 5 or 6 games, I'm okay with him missing the game at Portland. You got to figure that it's still a winnable game, even without Luka, without Naji, without PJ. And heck, even if Lively's still out tonight, I think the Mavs could potentially still get the job done. It'll be yet to be determined. Portland, of course, got a good couple young scorers on that team, and Anthony Simons. You got Shaedon Sharp. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm still feeling confident the Mavs have a chance to pull out the victory tonight, despite all of the missing players on the roster. Maxey, please come out and have another 10-plus point game. We'll see if it happens. But this is time also for Omax to step up for the Mavs as well. Let me know what you think about this whole incident in the comments down below. Again, I'm just kind of sick and tired of this pick and choose mentality that the league has and not really settling on a specific set of criteria for which you set a suspension, not getting enough clarification to the fans as far as this hostile manner of engagement in the corridor outside the locker rooms. To me, it just sounds like Naji Marshall said some words to Nurkic. And to me, that doesn't really warrant another game's worth of suspension. I don't know. What could he have possibly said? I don't know. I just think it's ridiculous. Perhaps I'm just a biased Mavs fan. Y'all let me know in the comments down below and click one of the videos on your screen now for some more NBA discussion.